Happy New Year, 7 points clear. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gooner Gathering. My name is Bertie Wanless, aka Posh Bertie, aka the poshest man in sports entertainment. And joining me is he was a regular in the Cannon Chatter days. He appeared in a video recently, and he's back again, Mr. Matt Roberts. Matt, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. How did you spend your New Year's Eve evening?
Well, who else is better to be spending your New Year's Eve with than the Arsenal and getting those 3 points in the bag?
Oh,
And
absolutely
then,
tremendous segue there. But yes, of course. In terms of the transition into midnight for New Year's Day, I was asleep, so I missed all of that because I actually had the almighty. I had the horrible thing in actually getting a decent sleeping pattern. So I slept. I fell asleep in 2022, woke up in 2023. So that was my plans. But yes, as you mentioned, I did watch the Brighton Arsenal game, which is why we're here. And we did win 4-2, and as I mentioned, we're 7 points clear at the top of the league, which is amazing. It wasn't exactly the smoothest of games to go through, wasn't it?
No, but the way we started, it felt like that was what I was expecting. The last time I mentioned that it was very slow and very authentic. And what better way to prove me wrong than scoring in the first 2 minutes through Bukayo Saka? To be honest, throughout the game, it could have been one of those games. It could have been 6 or 7 at times, not putting the game to bed. But it was a good game, and it was a good way to sort of end the new year and go into the new year knowing what we need to do as well. So I was really looking forward to really good way to end the new year for the club.
Yes, absolutely. And as if by magic, we have the team lineups here. We had Ramsdale in goal, the usual back four of Ben White, Gabriel, and Saliba and Zinchenko. Happy New Year, Niall Kane. Good to see you. Good to see you in the chat. Zinchenko at left back, Xhaka, Partey, and Odegaard in midfield. Saka and Martinelli on the wing, and Nketiah up front, of course, filling in for Gabriel Jesus with his injury. Odegaard, he scored the second goal, didn't he? And he had a great game today.
Yesterday, you mean?
Yesterday.
It's all right. It's been one of those ones when everyone's forgetting what sort of days and things like that until everything goes back to normal. But yeah, it was fantastic as well because it was a very Odegaard sort of goal. It was just a nice. If I remember rightly, it was just outside the box, and he just had a shot, and it went straight in, and that was it. It was almost like, right, okay, the fireworks started early with Odegaard. He's finished the year as he started it last year, and he's providing a lot more than he did last season in terms of goals and assists. If you compare them, and that's been the linchpin at times when we went through a few of those games. It was Odegaard getting the goals. It wasn't always Saka or a Martinelli. So it was good to see that he was getting in amongst the goals, and it's also helping with all sorts of aspects for the team. But I think he's kind of improved a hell of a lot. If we were to do any year awards, I think Odegaard will go for my most improved for sure. Just in the lineups as well, it was Tierney was put on the bench for Zinchenko. This is his first game back since the injury, if I remember correctly.
Tierney came on off the bench, didn't he, for Zinchenko? Yeah. I will mention the substitutions in a moment because I think there's been a lot of criticism surrounding the substitutions and the time and the timing of the substitutions. But we'll go there in a minute. We went 3-0 up thanks to Eddie Nketiah Was it Nketiah? Yeah, it was Nketiah who
Yes.
scored it. And I did a little joke on Twitter because I was critical of Nketiah last season, and I said as well when Jesus was injured, he's not going to be a title-winning striker. And I said on Twitter when he scored the third, imagine saying he wasn't a title-winning striker. Who would say such a thing? But the season's not over yet. Let's take it one game at a time here. But as Nketiah has filled in for Jesus, he's been brilliant, hasn't he?
So far, yes. He just needs to keep doing what he does best, and that is, if you go back to that goal, it was Martinelli again with the dribbling, gets into the box, he has his shot. The goalkeeper, I think it was, I can't remember the goalkeeper's name. I'm gonna mess it up. I think it's Sanchez. Yeah, he just sort of
not Alexis. He's too short to be a keeper, but the Brighton different Sanchez, Brighton keeper.
Yeah, basically he fumbled it, and Eddie's there just knocking on the back door, and goals like that is important for the whole team, to be honest. Because if you're at least in the box, it's just one of those classic striker moves, and you just finish it off. You need to be going through these sorts of runs, and the more he scores, the more plaudits he's going to get, as well as the less criticisms he's going to get. But it's also going to work out sometimes where he's not going to get the goals. But can he also add to that with some sort of assist, or even if he's playing in key passes to the other players to get those sort of chances? That's what we're kind of looking to see. And for him to get that goal, I think, as Lee's put it up there, and unfortunately Lee's a bit ill at the moment. 2 goals in two starts. It's a good way to start, and our next game, if I remember rightly, is against Newcastle, and then we've also got Oxford United away in the FA Cup. So a couple of chances there for him to get his thoughts on board, get himself into some sort of scoring pattern and help the team out, especially with some more difficult matches in the next couple of weeks.
And it comment here, thought his work ethic was fantastic as well, and we just hope he can keep that up as we've got some very tough games coming up. Not only have we got Newcastle in the league, yes, they did drop points, which was in our favour yesterday, but they're still going to turn up with a response, and they're still going to play very well as they've done pretty much all this season. Not just Newcastle we've got, but we've also got the likes of Tottenham and Man United coming up, which are going to be incredibly difficult games for us, I think, especially the Tottenham game. It is a tough place to go at the Tottenham Stadium, but we'll have to see if Nketiah can keep his form going, and if the likes of Saka, Martinelli. There is some information about Saka and the amount of bookings he's received. I think are we going to talk about that now, or are we going to? Oh yes, okay, we're talking about that now. The ghost of Gunnar Lee is controlling the stream here, but yeah, Gabriel and Saka, presuming that's the defender, Gabriel. Gabriel and Saka is on the edge of one more booking. If they receive one more booking, then they are banned for the next game. Is it still 5 yellow cards, or is it 7 now?
Yeah, still 5.
So. Yeah, and they're on 4 yellow cards, so they need to be. If they're going to start against Newcastle, which they probably will, they're going to have to be very careful, because both players will be a huge miss to us, especially considering Reece Nelson's injured and we've got no backup for Saka. Yeah, you could say Marquinhos, but is he? I mean, he's not exactly a. What am I looking for? It's not his right position, isn't it? I don't think.
So yeah, Saka's an odd one, because he's left-footed. I'd throw him on the left wing, but he's moved over to the right since Pepe's moved out on loan. But it's nice to. It's going to be difficult, because I've just looked it up as well, because we've got Newcastle at the weekend. If I'm honest, if it's only one match, it means missing the game against Oxford. So if I was Bukayo Saka and Gabriel, I'd be saying, get that yellow card, so then you miss the FA Cup game. because
So
we've
it
got
applies. It doesn't just apply to the Premier League. It
no,
applies to the FA Cup as well.
yeah,
Okay.
it will apply to the FA Cup. So once that's done, they miss that game, and then we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, Lee's just said there. You're looking for someone who's Premier League proven, and I don't think Marquinhos has been that. Has he featured in a Premier League game yet? Has he come off the bench at all in a Premier League game? I don't know. I know he's played in the Europa League because he scored that goal against Zurich, I think. But yeah, if you're gonna miss any games, it's going to probably be the FA Cup one. But I'm not encouraging them to get yellow cards, obviously. But in all the games, ESR isn't far away. Yes, I'm glad that's the case because we do.
He's made one appearance as a sub.
Okay. But yeah, and a comment here saying Smith Rowe isn't far away from. I think, did he play in that Dubai tournament? Did he get some minutes in? I think he did.
I'm not too sure. I wasn't able to watch it, so I wasn't able to keep up with all that.
I can't exactly remember, but if he's going to come back from his injury that he had that made him miss the whole season so far, it'll be good to see him come back because I do like Smith Rowe and he does offer some good creativity for us, especially with Jesus gone. We have missed creativity, but when Smith Rowe comes in, and you got the likes of Martinelli and Odegaard as well, I think that's very promising. He trained, but he didn't play. Okay, it's still encouraging though. It's good to see he's getting some fitness in.
He is officially training now with the squad, so properly on the pitches and joining in with sessions. So hopefully he will be back. I think if anything, if we were to look at some sort of timescale, if he was going to be playing, I think it would be you're looking at the Oxford United game.
Okay.
But it might be coming too soon.
We'll have to see how that goes. So so we were 3-0 against winning 3-0 against Brighton. Everything was going well, and then Brighton got a goal back. And me being I've always been quite a glass half empty Arsenal fan. I'm used to it. What can I say? I thought, oh God, this is, if the World Cup has taught me anything, you can't, you're gonna throw, you can have the ability to throw away a comfortable lead, and Brighton can be a team that could potentially do that. And even when we got another goal through Martinelli, that pass from Odegaard, by the way, was the most chef's kiss thing I've ever seen. But yeah, the fourth goal. Let's talk about the fourth goal. That was very good from Martinelli, wasn't it?
Yeah, and this one he actually deserved because he'd been threatening to do that all night, especially with that third goal, third goal with Eddie. He should have really had that. Well, it should have gone in. Unfortunately, Eddie goes and taps it in, so it makes it a little bit easier. But he was threatening all night. He was showing what he was all about, and he was so vital towards. I think someone put up a stat where he was involved in all 4 of the goals in some way, whether it was an assist or playing that key pass in. So it was great to see how Martinelli's again improved quite a lot throughout this season. He's sort of taken it not just upon himself, like doing those solo runs, like what I remember when we did the chat alongs long time ago, where he against Chelsea and going on that solo run and scoring against Mendy. He's taken it further in his stride, and it's becoming a huge strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said even a couple of seasons ago, oh, Martinelli needs to start more when he wasn't featuring as much as I wanted him to, because I saw a lot in him. I thought he'd be a fantastic player, and the more he started, the more he's improved, especially this season and last season as well. He's been a very good player, and he should have featured more during the World Cup as well, because I remember the game against Cameroon for Brazil. Despite the result, he was probably the best player on that pitch, and that's not me being a biased Arsenal fan. That's me thinking that he did offer a lot of good fortune for Brazil there. But that was the World Cup. This was a very tense game against Brighton, and it was tense in the last few minutes because it was 4-2, and then it was briefly 4-3. It was a very heart-in-mouth moment because the likes of Partey and Odegaard were taken off, which I'll get to in a minute. And luckily, the goal was ruled out by VAR. But wouldn't you agree that was a very, very nerve-wracking moment? And I thought, are we gonna bottle it from here?
Yeah, but this is again, Brighton have got a new dynamic with their new coach. It's almost like Jesse Marsh at Leeds, where you might score one against 3 or 4 against them, but they're able to score 3 and 4 themselves. So it's entertaining.
They don't give up. They still fight.
And it's nice to see you getting a little bit more of that entertainment now compared to, say, when you have a Burnley in the league and things like that. There are obviously other teams that sort of just are terrible and still in the league somehow. But it's just the way it goes at the end of the day. You've got to get at least 36 points now to stay in the league. And if you don't, then it's difficult. But Brighton are playing entertaining football. They're in the top 7 for a reason. And it showed why they aren't just messing about. They're trying to build something, and they're trying to build exciting football. They've already did that under Graham Potter. Now with the new manager. So it's not just them. They actually gave us a good go. It wasn't just, okay, we're 2-0 down and we're going to lie down and let them. Well, they tried to get back in. They had a few close calls as well. Obviously, with the VAR decision, eventually it was given as offside. I thought originally what was going to happen was it did look like one of their players actually handballed it when he went to go and chest it. So I thought that was the reason, but they ended up having a look at the offside as well. So I've got a little bit of luck on that.
And also, I mean, let's not forget we had the very, very reliable and respectful referee in Anthony Taylor as the referee today. And I thought, you know what, that's fine. We're in safe hands here. But the goal didn't stand, and it remained 4-2. But Brighton did dominate in the very last few minutes. It was very we looked quite. We didn't look as good as we did in the first half when we scored the goals, and I thought, this was, I think, because of who came off the bench and who came on. Because I know that I'm not saying don't make any substitutions because that's ridiculous, but look, the likes of Tomiyasu and Tierney coming on, I got no problem with that. That's fine, but. I thought Partey had a great game for us. Hang on, where's the... Here we go. Thank you very much. Yes, I just had to snap my fingers and there you go. Partey had a great game for us. He's a brilliant asset in our midfield. And he was taken off and El Neni came on. And I think that was... And also, Odegaard in the last few minutes came off and Rob Holding came on. And we didn't have that much of inspiring... I don't know. We weren't as inspired as we were when the likes of Partey and Odegaard were taken off. So I thought that the substitutions, I think, were very. It raised an eyebrow, like The Rock. It raised an eyebrow for me. But yeah, it is what it is. But I think Partey shouldn't have been taken off that early on, because what was it, like the 60-something minute? I think. I can't really remember.
Check.
I might be far off.
Here we go. As it happened,
I was having my dinner during the second half, but I was watching the game as well. So
Tomiyasu came on for White on the 58th minute. Tierney came on for Zinchenko. We got our goal back. Yeah, so the 74th minute, El Neni came on.
Okay.
And then once Ferguson scored their second, Rob Holding came on for Odegaard. That was, again, I was sort of understood where he's coming from.
He wanted to kind of park the bus more. He didn't really want to concede more goals, but
unfortunately it didn't. But I think realistically he would have wanted to make that Rob Holding sub a bit earlier, to try and hold out and go to really change things around. I think the problem is when you change your formation, and especially if you have switching to, I would imagine it would have been 5 at the back, because I highly doubt you're going to play Rob Holding at centre as an attacking midfielder.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, but
but you kind of understand that you're trying to like get some stability, but it's what was it, Ferguson's first goal?
Yeah, he's a young player, isn't he? He's
no, Ferguson was second goal. I've got it here. Mito Mio Mito.
He played for
scored the first one. Is he talking about Ferguson's first goal for Brighton?
Ferguson's first goal for Brighton. Yeah, that was the that's what they meant. But as I mentioned, I think, you know, I wasn't a fan of taking Partey off for El Neni at a time when Brighton were playing well and we lost a bit of creativity there. I'm saying the word creativity too much, but you get what I'm talking about when it comes to that. But yeah, at the end of the day, we did win the game despite a few setbacks. We are 7 points clear at the top of the league. I cannot believe I'm saying that. We do have Everton and Leeds to thank for this, though, because City dropped points, Newcastle dropped points, but we managed to win. We're 7 points clear going into 2023. How cautious or how confident are you going into the next few games, which are going to be tough?
I think it's going to be an interesting one, because we're now going to see a Manchester United side that isn't almost the restrictions of a certain number 7 who's too busy crying every 5 minutes to they're not going to have that restriction anymore, and it finally feels like after 6 months they finally going to feel like they're unleashed and they're going to release their potential. Saw that with afterwards, Rashford coming out and saying, yes, I overslept for a meeting, had to be dropped, and at least accepting that.
He was the one who scored, though, for United in that game. So that was a bit of a coincidence, I'd say. But yeah.
To ain't cut for it. But again, Everton, if you haven't seen Demarai Gray's goal, it was a brilliant finish. It's just absolute brilliant. I've always quite liked him. I never understood why he was sold for so little when he was at Leicester, when he went over to Leverkusen for about 2 million, and then he ended up going back to Everton for about the same price. And Demarai Gray's paid that back tenfold. He's such a great winger to have, and
been very good this season.
I'm very surprised that he's not at least in contention for some sort of national call-up, whether it's going to be with England or if he decides to go somewhere else to get international experience, then fair enough at the end of the day. But he's a fantastic player, and to do that against the current champions and get yourself out of a bit of a pickle at the bottom of the table is great to see.
Yeah. Luca AFC is in the chat. Hello, Luca. I hope you're well. He's saying that he's really worried about Spurs and United, and he can't see us beating Spurs. I mean, you know, it's an away fixture, and as we've seen from last season, the new White Hart Lane is a very difficult place to go. But you know, you could say that about Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and we managed to win it. I'm not saying it's going to be the same result. It might not. It might. Who knows? But the next few fixtures, not just Tottenham and United, Newcastle as well, who can definitely turn up against the big Premier League teams. It's definitely not going to be easy. Where do you? I mean, Matt, when it comes to Newcastle, Tottenham, and United, which I think are our next three games. I think
taking it at the Premier League fixtures, yes.
Premier League fixtures, yes. How many points do you see us getting from that?
Well, I think with us being at home to Newcastle, I think a lot of people are going to imagine that we'd try and get something from that. It's a case of obviously with Tottenham away, and on I've completely forgotten that.
I'd be very happy if we took 7 points out of a possible 9. In those, if we beat Newcastle, we beat Man United, and even if we draw away from home against Tottenham, I think that's a decent result considering it's a very, very tough fixture. I'd honestly be happy if we took 7 points from 9. Obviously, I'd be happy if we took all 9 points, but I think that's we can't be too optimistic here.
I do need to look at the table because I think someone has actually calculated that City could win all their remaining games and we could lose 2 and we would still be champions, but I don't think that's right.
No,
but it depends what sort of teams come out, because it could be the Tottenham team that we see over the past where they just give up for 60 minutes and then the last 20 minutes they just start to come out and play. That'll be interesting to see what happens with that. It's also a North London derby. Anything goes. If we can get something from it, ideally a win would be good, but I don't know. Then Newcastle at home, they're sort of on a run at the moment, and ideally they'll coming into this after that draw at the weekend to Leeds. Not ideal for them, but they'll want to bounce back from that. But they're in a better place than they were. I think that one was going to be the closest one. Again, I think this United home. We shouldn't have lost that game as we did.
We lost at Old Trafford, which was our only loss of the Premier League season so far.
And the other thing as well is that United got away with that result a little bit because it was now then found out that they gave the Martinelli goal disallowed incorrectly at the end of it. So it's one of those where I think Martinelli will be up for that one 100%. It also depends on whether or not people are going to be coming through the door, or because I'd imagine that you'd probably want them in. Obviously not from the Newcastle game, but you're probably looking towards at least trying to have them in place before that game against Tottenham to try and help.
I mean, where are we on the Modric transfer? Because it's a bit up in the air, really, isn't it? I mean, we had our first bid rejected, but we're still trying to get him.
Yeah, and this, from what I've read and heard, they're still wanting that 100 million. It'll be euros.
Yeah.
So it works out as around roughly that 80 million. I don't think people want to talk about the 80 million mark because it's kind of a dull figure at the moment. You look at some of the players that have gone for the 80 million figure or around that sort of earmark, and it hasn't really worked out for them. So I think we're trying to decrease it, but maybe it'll be more of in sort of payments and buyouts or installments, even just to try and stall it out. So we're paying maybe a little bit more upfront, but overall it'll be worth X amount over the next couple of years. But he's been dropping hints heavily. Again, he was watching the game last night.
I saw that.
So
saying 2 top managers, well, referencing Mikel Arteta and a backroom staff member who used to work for Shakhtar, I believe.
I think. I think it's a shot of both both managers, so it was Arteta and the Brighton coach as well.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So I was a
Oh,
bit confused about that, but it only had two of
yeah.
them in
I
there.
thought it was
So,
like one of our coaches who used to work
no.
with Shakhtar or something.
Well,
So,
that's the problem at the moment. Is it seems to be all about Mudryk, and you're not hearing anything else. But now, because officially the window is open now, we're going to
yeah.
hear all sorts. And as we get further down the line, maybe towards the end of the month, we will probably, hopefully, have a few more people. I think people are saying three players in. It's actually that's the other one is how Felix as well. We don't know what's happening with that because of that complicated as well. So it seems to be two strikers /one winger.
If I can predict, I don't think we'll end up getting João Felix. I think he'll probably go to Man United, but we'll see. We'll have to see come later on in the month. But I don't think he'll end up going to Arsenal. It'd be a decent signing, but who needs him when you've got Nketiah?
It's just someone else that you can bring off the bench. I mean, I think Lee said that I beat him to it, but you do look at that and you do think, well, right, okay, if Eddie gets injured, who's realistically going to be on the bench, or who's on the bench that can score the goals? Okay, Martinelli can play up there because he's been trained in that position in the past. But then you're asking to move someone else onto the wing. If you're asking Marquinhos to step up, it's again that little bit of inexperience can cost you. So yeah, it will be tough to say for certain who needs to come in and what needs to come in. But we know strikers should be on the mark, but it's a case of who at the moment.
What's your view on training Saka to be a striker? He can finish. We've seen him score.
I can see where you're going with it. It was like when people were talking about maybe playing Pepe as a striker. When he started playing, I know obviously he was on the wing, but it was an option.
I think in hindsight, that's probably not a good idea. But Saka, I think he's been a prolific goal scorer for us this season. It's just an idea.
It's an idea, but yeah, I don't know. I think people because of him attracting the fouls and everything, I think it's more likely that you're not going to want him in around the sort of wings and that dangerous attacking thirds, rather than if you stick him in the middle, you're gonna end up with like a Dan Burns is gonna just shove him off the ball every 5 minutes. You need someone who's a bit more well equipped, not like Eddie. You need all sorts of strikers at the end of the day. You don't just need like one sort. Eddie's obviously the fox in the box. You got Gabriel Jesus, who likes to be I wouldn't call it more of a hold up player than a target man, because he can score the goals. He likes the assists. I'll probably call him the all rounder actually, because he does score and he does like the assists. But then I've always said you usually have like your tall player, your not I would not say Olivier Giroud, because he wasn't, although he was good in it, very good in the air. More like a Peter Crouch sort of thing, just everything you want it to land on his head and it goes in the back of the net.
Just without being really tall though, but
yeah, obviously his joke was that if a VAR existed, every one of his goals would have been offside or chalked off for one reason or another. So not overly tall, but quite tall player, maybe 6'3", 6'4", you're looking at maybe.
Yeah, and if we are desperate for a striker, we can always find out what Yaya Sanogo is up to these days. But yes, we've mentioned the Brighton game. We mentioned the potential transfers. I think that might be it. I don't know. I wonder if Guna Gathering is going to tell us in the chat if there's anything else we need to mention, or we'll have to
Should we
see.
look forward towards Newcastle?
Yes, of course.
Obviously, Lee's just mentioned about Dubravka being called back from Manchester United as well. So they've got another goalkeeper in their mix now.
Yes, although I probably expect Nick Pope to start against us because I think he's been very good this season for Newcastle. And in terms of Dubravka being recalled, I'm not exactly surprised. He has only featured in the Carabao Cup games for United. He's an international goalkeeper for Slovakia, I believe. He was a regular starter at Newcastle last season. He's not getting the minutes that you thought he did, so there you go. I think that's probably why he was recalled. But as we look into the Newcastle game, I wonder if something has happened to Pope. Oh, I mean, potentially. I don't know. That's just speculation, really.
I was just wondering if his contract's running down, so maybe they're looking to either sell him or maybe look to bring in that competition for Pope because there isn't really that competition.
Yeah, potentially. But what do you make of the Newcastle game? It's going to be difficult. But what's your? Can we get a prediction, please?
I'll go 2-1 Arsenal. The only reason I'm saying that is I hate Nick Pope. I don't like him. And I don't know what it is. Just don't like him. Every time whenever he was when he played that game for England, I can't remember which one it was. He just didn't really thrill me. And it was quite funny actually because I was at Tranmere versus Newcastle in the League Cup in September, and the way Newcastle were so bad that they needed to bring on Kieran Trippier just before half time to actually turn the game around actually shows you that they've got a reliance heavily on certain players, even though that they had a rotated game. If they're relying on Kieran Trippier and Nick Pope and Almiron at the moment.
Almiron's the danger man here, I think, isn't he?
Saint Maximin.
Yeah.
I don't know if Callum Wilson's back injured again or they haven't.
Saint Maximin had a great game against us last season. Also, I've just been told through my earpiece, my invisible earpiece, that it's Jack Wilshere's birthday today. Yes, so that's very nice. Yeah, he was a good midfielder for us, although he got injured a lot, as we know. He's known now for being quite an injury-prone player. But I think, as I think I talked about once, if Wilshere didn't get injured, he could have been one of the best midfielders we've had in recent Arsenal history. But it wasn't to be. But yeah, in the terms of the Newcastle game and my prediction, I think it's going to be 1-0 to Arsenal. I think we'll get the goal in the second half, probably Martinelli or Odegaard. I think Newcastle will be very tough. But yeah. Sorry, I'm getting messages. Wilshere's the current under-18s coach. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be 1-0 Arsenal against Newcastle. And finally, I'll ask you one more question. You mentioned that you hate Nick Pope. Who would you rather have in goal for us, Nick Pope or Emi Martinez?
Oh, God. Neither.
Would you rather spend time in the gulag?
I would rather have Fabianski in goal than either of them, and I hated Fabianski over all three of them. So, actually, no, Martinez is probably the worst because the way he was during that tournament is just very big-headed. It's just something about Nick Pope where I don't know. People seem to rate him, and just I don't get it. So, if I had to choose, maybe gun to my head, I'd probably go with Nick Pope.
Okay, and on that note, thank you very much for tuning in to Gooner Gathering today. We talked about a whole number of things, but the important thing is to remember that Arsenal are 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League. We hope you have a very happy new year. And until next time, thank you and goodbye.